Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Now, for those unfamiliar, I work in the industry esports, which is basically competitive gaming at Microsoft. It's a really new industry. There's a lot of stuff still being developed, a lot of businesses that are forming around it, and I think everyone's just trying to get their footing because it is such a new industry. I wanted to share some tweets today from Yangson. She's a senior marketing manager at Cloud9, which is an esports team, and she says, you want to get your first job at esports? Don't. And she has this whole Twitter thread on why. You should totally follow her, by the way, but let's jump in. So she starts by saying, while an extremely appealing career prospect, it might be a challenge to get your foot in the door. As a hiring manager at 2 esports companies, I look for employees with foundational skills. Most esports orgs are limited in resources, which means that training isn't always provided. Teams are looking for someone who adds value/skill to their already existing work. Oftentimes, people look for unicorns, who are people that carry multiple skills or disciplines of work. It's a lot to ask of someone, especially at entry level, but it's unfortunate reality, as most companies cannot afford specialization. Soft skills like prioritization, managing up, communication are skills that are learned over time and are critical in operations. Most esports orgs don't have more than 20 day-to-day employees running the whole place. I really like the points that she's making here, and I think there's kind of 2 that I extract. The first is foundational skills. What she's basically saying is these things like prioritization and managing up. The way I think about it is like it's part of a larger bucket that's like productivity. So can you day-to-day take direction and what the business goals are all up and work on your tasks day to day, week to week, and get your stuff done without too much oversight? As she said, like, it's a really fast moving industry. There's not a lot of specialization. So you kind of need to be on your own, if you will, and be able to work autonomously so that you're not bothering your manager too much, right? When she says managing up, what she's talking about is doing things to support your manager and almost take work off their plate and make their life easier. In terms of productivity, for myself personally, before coming to Microsoft, I was one of the most like unorganized people you can imagine. If you ask someone, is Tashi an organized person? They would tell you flat out no. It took a lot of work for me to make that what I think is now one of my strengths. I took courses online, I read books, I watched videos, I talked to colleagues. I basically busted my ass for multiple years just in order to be an organized, productive person to where my managers weren't worrying about, what is Tashi working on this minute, this day, this week, or whatever, right? Check back in with high level, here's where I'm going, make sure the direction is going in the right area. But there wasn't, needing to be hand holding, which is really important. I think what she's getting to here. Another foundational skill that I would add is really about your demeanor and how pleasant you are to work with, as weird as it sounds. Like when you listen to people, are you listening to understand what they say, or are you listening just to counter and jump in with your point? Are you humble? Are you willing to learn? Are you willing to fail and someone gives you critical feedback and you don't have an ego about it and you sit there and you take it and you say, yep, I messed that up. Here's how I'm gonna do better, and you get to work to do that. Are you good at giving feedback, right? If someone on your team messes up, or a colleague or one of your peers, it's important that you don't just go in and crush people or dump on all their work. Like, you have to be someone who is enjoyable to work with and they feel like you're a partner alongside with them instead of someone they're trying to compete with. So I would say that's another critical foundational skill. And that really lets you work with anybody, whether it's internal partners or external partners or just people on your team, whoever it might be. Especially in esports, is a really crazy industry. Being able to put your ego in the back pocket, stay humble, stay hungry, and work with other people in the best capacity is what's going to take you far. Now, another point she's making is around wearing many hats, and this is 100% true in esports. You could probably think about dozens and dozens of individual roles that I've done here at 343. So, one day you're writing emails, the next you're on a plane going to an event, another one you've got, a booth to set up with PCs and running games. Like, these are small startup, right? It's a new industry. So being able to just get dirty and not think, oh, I just have one job and this is all I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna do it great and everyone's gonna love me. Like, that's just not the way it works in this kind of startup industry. So you need to be comfortable getting thrown into the fire and surviving and being comfortable, but also kind of thriving and enjoying having your back against the wall and having to do many different things. Personally, I think this is a really good thing and something that I've leaned into in my career. For me, I always wanted to learn to do everything that I possibly could. It doesn't matter if it fell within my job description or not. If it was something that I thought would further my impact at my job and the franchise, I was going to watch other people. I was going to ask questions. I was going to learn to do it. and I was going to take on the work and do the extra workload just so I could get those skills and keep moving forward. Okay, moving on, she says, my advice, get 1 to 2 years experience in your desired field of position somewhere else, like literally anywhere else. Come with transferable skills, project management, design programs, campaign art, etc. Regardless of your industry, if you demonstrate knowledge and competency, then the context of esports is an easier adaptation to teach. No prior job experience? Show me what projects you've been working on. A portfolio sample of your work. As much as I would like to take your word for it, I need evidence. While it's not impossible to get your first job in esports, as I've known many people who have, you give yourself a better chances when you deliver on the knowledge required to work in an industry that has little structure and organization. Another great point that Yangson's making, and I totally agree with this one. Out of all the points she's making, the one I want to focus on the most is having projects on the side that you're doing with no prior job experience. Because this was me. Before working at Microsoft, believe it or not, right, I was just a Halo fan that loved playing Halo, and that's all that I did. To make money on the side, I worked on swimming pools. Like, I literally used to build and repair and open and close and swimming pools just to make ends meet. Whenever I got a chance to contribute to the Halo community, whether it was posting on forums, going to events and networking, doing a podcast, it was streaming, it was creating content on YouTube, I did everything that I possibly could. And then when it came time for a role to open up, Microsoft would actually let me know about the job that they had because they felt like I was a good fit, because they already saw that I was doing all the things that made sense for this job. The work was out there, it was public, it was tangible in a sense, even though it was digital. And it made it a lot easier for them to, almost extend an olive branch and have me transition into the role. Okay, next she goes on to talk about the interview process. She says, also, for the love of all that is good, yes, esports is a fun industry, but interviews are serious. I can't tell you how many people lack professionalism and decorum in interviews. That is the baseline. Your resume can be exactly what I'm looking for, but if you don't know how to conduct yourself in situations that are meant to be serious, then I cannot trust you to represent the brand or for you to respect me, the position, or anyone I work with. Twitter is limited, but I definitely have more thoughts on this matter, the kind of info you like to read. I gladly post more content like this in the future. Thanks for reading. For this industry, we all play games, we love games, we get on, we play, and we joke with our friends and all this fun stuff. But when it comes time to an interview with a serious job, you have to take it seriously. If you think about it, these are companies, they have got millions of dollars, they're startups, there's a lot at stake, right? It's not like they can mess up and everything will be fine, like a big company like at Microsoft, where you have literally over 100,000 employees. Like she said, this is only 20 or so people, so you're one of 20 people. They need to be able to trust you. They need to be able to make sure that you're gonna take this seriously, because again, when you get there, you're gonna be doing a lot, you're gonna be wearing a lot of different hats, and you're gonna have to be kind of on your own, figuring stuff out. Doesn't matter how, like she said, good your resume might be. Ultimately, you're undermining and eroding the trust that's underneath there. Thankfully, at least in my experience, I've done a few hundred interviews. I think I've only had a few people that are like really kind of unprofessional and immature, but obviously those people don't get hired. It doesn't really matter exactly what you've done. Again, it goes back to what I said about being able to work with people. It's not a good sign if you're being super unprofessional in your interview and you don't know how to handle yourself in a situation like this. There's no way she's gonna hire somebody if she can't trust them. Like, trust is such a huge part of all of this, especially a huge brand like Cloud9. Hey, that's the end of the video. Big shout out to Yangson. Go follow her on Twitter. She's awesome. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.